Hey, welcome to another episode of Amp Up Solar Workshop. Today, we're covering conduit basics from choosing the right raceway to making clean professional bins. Hey, if you're watching live, be sure and drop your questions in the chat. We always love including you in the conversation. So Kenny, welcome back. I'm excited to get into it. Let's start with the basics. What is a conduit and why are they important in solar and battery installations?
Certainly. We need to protect the wire.
Sure.
And also we need to protect ourselves from the wire.
Yeah.
So yeah, conduit is definitely a thing. It's also required by code. So if you're going to get this inspected, or even if you don't, you want to have it safe.
Yeah, so you don't want to just have wire hanging off of your roof. You don't want to have wire just loosely hanging anywhere. Wind can come and throw anything into it and can cause problems. What kind of problems could it cause if something hit wire and caused it to come loose?
Well, it could be energized and maybe not at that point, but then maybe a week or so later, another gust of wind, or maybe someone moves a lawn chair and now you've got a short and a potential fire risk, damage to your equipment that you've spent a lot of money on, and so forth. So conduit's a good thing to protect the wire from any sort of damage and also from the elements.
So safety and durability are a big part of it.
Absolutely.
So there's different types of conduit. Let's talk about what kind of conduit that we could use in a solar and battery installation.
Sure. Yeah.
So you brought in a couple of different types. We have this right here, and you've got some here on the floor. What is this type of conduit that you got?
So this is EMT, stands for electrical metallic tubing.
Okay.
And this is
my preferred. You hear EMT all the time.
Yes. This is my preferred, as well as arguably it's probably the gold standard of conduit. Most AHJs will, some actually even require that you use this, but I've never had any real AHJs tell me that this is not the way to go. So I would say arguably it's the gold standard.
Why would you consider it the gold standard? What are the advantages of EMT itself as conduit or a raceway that you would use?
Well, it's going to stay in good shape for a long time. It's not made of plastic. It's very durable. It can be painted over and over again, different shades of color. And it's just by requirement for NEC, your entryway from your PV array, according to, I believe it's 690.31, it has to be in a metallic raceway. Okay. So since you're going to have some metallic conduit on site anyway, I go ahead and just standardize with EMT. That's what I've done.
Okay. And as I understand it, in California, EMT is the only type of raceway that is allowed.
I know that there are certain jurisdictions, yes, that they don't want to see any sort of plastic. Even in some of the desert areas where some of the plastic conduits they call it alligator, the UVs just can really break it down. And so after a while, the plastic conduit, the PVC type of conduit, can actually start breaking down.
Okay, well, let's talk about PVC since you mentioned it.
Sure.
We've got some over here. Now, when I think of PVC, I've built different things with PVC. I've always used white PVC, but this is gray PVC. What is the difference? And then when do we use PVC when we're doing solar and battery installation?
So I like to, the difference is this is a gray, and gray PVC is going to be your conduit. White PVC is going to be for plumbing.
Okay.
And so that's a difference. And since EMT, metallic conduit, is not rated to be put into the ground, so if you have any trenching, you're going to be putting generally PVC into the ground.
Okay.
And then you make your transitions back to metal once it gets up out of the ground. So it's not that I don't use PVC. I will use it, and it's usually in the trench.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. And so PVC is usually in the ground. Now, then we've got some other really cool pieces here. We've got some that are a little more flexible. What is the difference between these and when would these be used?
So this is what trade calls liquidite. Some people call it Carflex, but this is a flexible conduit. And you will often see this size of conduit either being flexible or not in between the batteries and whatnot.
Okay.
And so this is our non-metallic flexible conduit.
It's kind of got a rubber coating on it.
Yes, it's really super thick stuff. And so this is a little shorter piece, but in essence, it is flexible the longer you have
Sort
it.
of flexible, yeah.
So, yeah. So then this
This can
is
flex a little bit.
this is our metallic flexible conduit. Now this particular piece of conduit is rated for indoors only. And so you wouldn't want to use this outdoors. However, they do have a metallic outdoor conduit that has a jacket over it, very similar. It would look just like the flexible
Kind
conduit.
of rubberized on the outside of this.
But it does have the metal on the interior.
Okay. Now, when would you use this over the EMT?
Well, with the 2-inch EMT.
Because this seems like it could be easier to work with and you wouldn't have to have special tools to bend it. If this was longer, it would be easier to bend.
Right. So 2-inch EMT is really difficult to bend with a manual hand bender. But you can buy pre-bent 90s and use an offset like Unistrut to set it off the wall instead of bending an offset into it. And in some places, just it might seem simpler to use a piece of flex in between your batteries. I typically like to use EMT wherever I possibly can. And so we will do offsets with an actual offset like bracket or so off the wall, so I don't have to do any 2-inch bends. But they also sell 2-inch pieces of bent pipe already.
Okay. So I do know that, like in jurisdictions, like we talked about in California, you couldn't use this because EMT is what's required.
Well, or metallic conduit.
Okay, so this could be used if it was outdoor rated.
Yeah, if it was outdoor rated, but in between the batteries interior, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
could.
Well, let's talk about some connectors. So we've got different types of conduit. We've got different types of connectors, but sometimes you're going to have to come off the pipe, and we've got conduit bodies that will allow you to come into different types of boxes and things, or allow you to what? What do these do?
So these are conduit bodies, and so there's only so many 90s you can put into your run, and so once you get past 4 90s, you can put one of these in, and it's what we call a pull box. So you could actually pull your wire through all the way and then fish it back this way and start from anew, and then you could have another 4 90s past this.
So code tells you that you can only have 4 90s when you're bending your wire, but you're saying after you come through this, because you're pulling it all the way straight through, and then you can fish it through again from here, then you can bend it 4 more times.
That's right.
To make a
you can have 4 more
degrees.
90s. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and also this is a really good to make transitions. There's a few different types of conduit bodies. This in particular is what they call, this is an LL. So it's going to come out of the lower left-hand side. So they call that an LL. This is what we call.
And that's if this is the front.
Yes, being that is the front.
Okay.
And this being the top. This is what we call an LB. Now, I've used these quite a bit from our transitions from the ground. Let's say we 90 with our PVC up into this, and then you can get an adapter to go from the PVC with a male threaded adapter into a metal male threaded adapter into here, and then we can go in from the ground through the wall with our conduit and be code compliant, because now we have the entryway as a metal conduit.
Okay.
Or off the roof. This can come in and also go through the wall that way as well.
Okay.
So
Where would
these
it
are
be
our
best to
conduit
use
bodies.
these?
Well, if you have more than 4 90s, and also 2 for your transitions, and also if you've got a really tight space, you could actually, let me try that one. I think would be a better choice. If you don't have enough room for this radius bend right here, but you still need to accomplish a 90-degree bend, you can actually put an LL upside down,
Okay.
but going to that entry there that way.
Now, why would this be a better choice than this one?
Well, that's going to offer a little bit more accessibility up front.
Mm-hmm.
Although you could use this, but that's going to limit. You won't be able to put anything right up next to it because you want to make that accessible.
So if you had another component that you decided to install here, you couldn't access the screws, you couldn't access the wires if you needed that.
That's right. And they have to be accessible. So this can't be put up against the wall and used as a 90.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be accessible to where you can get inside the conduit box itself.
Okay, so conduit bodies can be really helpful.
Yes.
Great. Let's talk about fittings. So we've got a couple of different fittings here. Talk to me about these fittings. I like this one. I like the two different colors.
So I have done a lot of standardization.
Okay.
So these are waterproof male couplings for your EMT.
So being waterproof means they can be used outdoor.
Yes. And so I typically like to have on the truck all outdoor rated stuff.
So does that mean this one is not outdoor rated because it doesn't have two different colors?
That's a good question. This is what they call concrete tight. And so in essence, it is liquid tight, but it doesn't have the same rating as these do. So it's a good question to ask. They do call this concrete tight. So I guess you can embed this in concrete, but nonetheless, this will take two pieces of conduit and make them longer. So this is a coupler.
Okay.
So after we've joined our pieces of conduit, then we would take this to where we're going into, you can hand me one of those LVs if you'd like there. This is also a way to transition into an electrical box like this,
mm-hmm.
or into our LB with our compression fitting right there. And so also too, I'm going to open this up here. You can make our, from our piece of conduit into here, obviously that's not the right size knockout, but then you would then follow that with a ring, lock ring to lock that in,
okay,
and then a bushing. So like what we have up here, we'll pretend this is on the inside of the conduit box. And now we have this bushing here.
So this is kind of a nylon material.
That is a nylon bushing, yes.
And so as you pull the wires through, that would protect your wires.
That is correct. Now also too, now since we're talking about bushings, sometimes with EMT and metallic conduit, you're going to use what they call a grounding bushing,
mm-hmm.
which is essentially doing the same thing as the nylon bushing, because there is on this black piece of plastic that will protect the wire as you're pulling it. But also this offers a ground lug where you can take this and then take this over to your ground bar. So now that the conduit itself is grounded.
So you would generally see something like this when you're coming down from PV into a junction box or something like that?
Yes. And a lot of times some jurisdictions require that you use this. I know that Austin Energy, they wanted to have these on everything, even if you didn't have concentric knockouts or mm-hmm. whatever. They didn't want the box itself to be grounding your conduit. So we would use a lot of conduit bushings.
Great.
Grounding bushings.
So
conduit.
I guess there's one other thing that we need to talk about is strapping. So when is strapping and spacing important when you're talking about conduit?
So to meet NEC code, there are requirements of the distance that you have to have a strap.
Mm-hmm.
And typically,
so we've got one strapped here.
So we've got one strapped here. So these types of straps right here are used inside the inside unistrut. So they call them a pipe clamp, but they're basically a conduit strap. They can be used for other things as well. But so there are certain restrictions with NEC and then other jurisdictions that require more strapping more often. So typically what I like to do, which kind of like one size fits all jurisdiction, is anywhere after a conduit body or out of a junction box,
mm-hmm.
I like to strap within 18 inches and then every 6 feet. But I believe NEC code is like, as long as it's not longer than 18 inches, it's every 10 foot.
Okay, so at minimum 10 foot, every 10 foot, but you do 6 foot just to meet everybody.
Yeah, because straps are fairly inexpensive.
Okay.
And we're really designing and installing for those things, our pieces of componentry to be there for. So there's nothing wrong with that. In some cases, right at 10 feet where you're marked, you might not have a stud to get to. So,
And then coming out of a box at least 18 inches.
yes, that's what I prefer to do.
Okay.
So I would check your local jurisdictions for that and code to get it right. But again, too, it's one of the most affordable things you're going to buy is your straps.
Why
not use
is
them?
strapping and support important?
Well, you don't want to have anybody use your strap as a ladder. So, although I like to build my equipment,
I may have done that as a kid one time.
I'm sure you have. Somewhere down the line, someone came up with the idea that we're going to need conduit and we're going to need strapping because, probably some kids have tried to use it as a ladder or just looks fun to crawl up on.
For sure.
So it needs to be strapped down.
Right. And then that also keeps those kids safe.
Yes.
From the water.
Yeah, maybe not from the fall, but it keeps them safe from the electrical shock, essentially.
For sure. Here you go. Well, so I am excited to get into the bending part because that's something that I don't have experience with, and I'm excited for you to teach us that. But I know that some planning is pretty important before you decide what bend that you need and where it's going to go. So talk to us about how you think about your layout and what kinds of bends that you need.
Gotcha. So for our layouts, we want to keep in mind if we're using even PVC or EMT, there's going to be a certain bend radius that we need to account for rather. So, our layout might not be like, okay, really, really close. And if it is really close, then we can use like an LB or an LL like we did before to get a tighter thing. But for the most part, you want to make sure that you have enough room for whatever that conduit bend radius is going to be. And so as you lay things out, which kind of brings me into how this is our conduit bending tool. This is our conduit bender.
I thought it was a big Bertha putter that I could use on the golf course. It looks like, it's got a special thing that you can pull your golf ball out of the cup, but it's not.
Or you could pull your friend out of the water hazard with it.
Yeah.
So,
that's multi-purpose, right?
Yes, it's a multi-purpose. If you need to dig with it, maybe potentially.
All right, so what do we have?
So basically, this is a conduit bender. This is designed for 3/4 inch EMT.
Okay.
And so
they make different sizes for different size conduits.
Yes.
You have to have the right size for the right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so this happens to be a 6-inch radius with everything that's going to do. So if you were to put something right here, that's all going to be like 6 inches. So it's definitely something to consider. Like you're going to have a 6-inch radius on pretty much any of your 90 bends. So there's a few numbers here and a star and an arrow and what size conduit it is. And so if we're going to be bending, let's say a 30-degree bend.
So this has different degrees though that you can do.
That's right.
10, 22.5 degrees, 30 degrees, 45, and 90?
60, and then
where's your 90?
Your 90 is going to be
just all the way,
pretty much all the way down on
okay.
that. We'll do a 90 actually, and we can kind of show you. Also you can put a level on the conduit itself, and it will tell you your 90. And might as well bring this out now. This is a good time to talk about this.
Okay.
This is actually designed. This is an electrician's level, and so it has your 0, your 90, 45, and 30-degree marks on it. So these are pretty handy to have. But we'll use that here in a second. We're going to bend to 90, and we'll use that. Put that one right there. And it's also magnetic. So we're just going to start with a 30-degree bend. And so a 30-degree bend is usually what we're going to do for an offset. So generally, you're not going to be bending a conduit 30 degrees to go into another piece of equipment. You're going to bend something 30 degrees to go up and over something or up and into something. And so what I mean by that is, let's say we take this piece of conduit, for instance, and we'll pretend this piece of conduit is our wall. So if we have a soffit penetration, so we're coming off the roof, we want our PV to go on the outside of the house because our inverters are right here. We don't want our conduit run to go inside the house and then poke back out. Mm-hmm. So this is pretty much what one could use for a soffit bend. Maybe I have this backwards. But either way, let's say your bend, your soffit is 8 inches. I believe it was 10 inches away from.
I think we measured 10 inches.
It was 10 inches away. And so you're going to make your penetration right here, but we don't want that coming down and then just bending in and having all that free air, because we have to strap this every certain amount to make it nice and flush and also supported well.
And keep it out of the way.
Keep it out of the way.
People want to hang on it, things like that.
Yeah. So we've done a 45-degree bend here, and then we've bent it back another 45 degrees. So now we're up against the wall, nice and flat. Mm-hmm. And you might have noticed this on your guttering. 45 degrees is pretty popular for a soffit type of, to go from your gutter line back over to the wall and then back out. So that's at a 40-degree bend. 45. And so that's 45-degree bend. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then what we're going to do is talk about, well, how do we know when to bend it back?
Yeah.
So let's say we're going to do a 30-degree bend up 2 inches and into the box. So from the wall, the knockout is 2 inches on center to where we need to go. Mm-hmm. And we're going to use a 30-degree bend to accomplish that. Well, if you flip your tool over, now all of a sudden the 30-degree mark has a 2 on it. And so that's our multiplier. So in other words, to get up and into with 2 different bends at 30 degrees, we take our multiplier by 2. So if it's 2 inches, we're going to multiply that by 2. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have 2 different marks. One on the 2-inch mark, mm-hmm. where we start our bend, and another one at the 4-inch mark where we're going to bend it back. So that way we bent it up, and now we bent it back in to where we're continuing on a coplanar with our conduit. So that's what we call an offset, because it's offset from the wall. So we're going to go up, bend, go up a little bit, and then bend back in so we can go into the conduit really nicely, like we kind of did with the 45.
Okay, so I think I understand. If I'm flush with the wall with this conduit and I needed to go out 2 inches to meet this hole, I would come out 30 degrees this way and then come back 30 degrees this way to be even with this hole here.
Yes, but in between those 2 bends, the multiplier would tell you that we need to do the second bend 4 inches from the first bend.
Right, so I would be out this way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see how we do that.
So first thing you want to do is we'll go ahead and bend a 90. So we'll get that.
All right.
I'll have you get that ready for us. And since there's not a 90-degree marker here, I kind of know where to get this level to do that. But what we can do is maybe put the this on here, and then we can tell where our 90 is going to be with our level by putting that onto the conduit itself.
And you could use another level here also, right?
You could. Yep, absolutely. So the first thing you want to do with the conduit bender is make sure that it is flat to the ground. You don't want to start doing something like this, because then you're going to potentially kink the pipe. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is if you have a straw and you bend it over, you can kink it. Mm-hmm. Whereas with a conduit bender, we're going to achieve something nice and smooth without any crimps in it. So to keep that nice and smooth, we want to apply pressure down with the foot pedal here as we're bending here. That way we're not lifting this conduit up and giving it a different angle of the bend than we want.
Now, Kenny, before you do this, you know how I am. Is there any PPE that is required when you're bending conduit?
I mean, I guess you could use, well, really when you cut it and then you ream it, you won't wear your gloves.
Mm-hmm. So there's nothing right now that is a safety hazard.
You know, sometimes I've been told I should probably wear a helmet just
Yeah.
for,
What if your
kind of
foot
view.
slips off of that and you fall directly onto that?
I mean, yeah, as far as I know, there's no particular equipment you need for PPE while bending conduit. Now, when
Okay.
you cut it, you want to put gloves on, eye protection, and that sort of thing. And obviously, you're never going to be bending conduit with live wire in it. So I think
Okay,
I
I'll
think we're
trust you on
pretty
that.
safe. Other than might just fall onto the ground, which there again too, But
That is a safety hazard.
yes, it is a safety hazard. So we want to apply pressure downwards, probably more than the pressure we want pulling this up.
Okay.
So
pretty much simultaneously.
Yeah.
Working together. And you're just trying to get your level plumb.
since we're doing a 90,
Now, how are you keeping this from rocking so that you're making this to where you want it to go, where it's
well, at this point, it's
On
pretty well
plane.
locked into the bender.
okay?
But yeah, you definitely kind of want to keep that up and level as best you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of probably tell me when that's
Not quite.
close.
Getting close.
Getting closer.
And you're pretty good.
So I'm going to let it relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. It went back.
I'll go just a little bit more.
Okay. That looks pretty good.
So that looks pretty good. Now you can always do some fine adjustments
Sure.
after you're done.
I could see that when you did it the first time and you relaxed it, it wanted to go back to where it was. And so when you did it again, you almost went a little too far, but you relaxed it and it went back to where it wasn't quite 90. And so it took a little bit of taking maybe the elasticity out of it, maybe.
Yeah, and also too, just kind of knowing your tool,
Mm-hmm.
Where you're going to need to go. So it's better to you can overbend, but then you can also kink it. But also, it's pretty easy. Let's say I bent this too far this way.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually stand on that and bend it back into a 90. But just as long as it's not, way over there. So essentially, and you notice there's no kinks.
That looks pretty nice. You did a good job.
Nice and smooth.
Now, how much force did that take, or how much strength?
Not much.
Okay.
Using a lot more weight.
And
on the foot
control,
pedal.
it seemed.
Yes.
You didn't just jerk it. You wanted to be controlled.
Sometimes you kind of have to give it a quick little
Mm-hmm.
nudge to get things going or whatever. But, it's kind of like every morning I kind of need a little kick and a nudge to get going myself. So Conduit's no different there. So our next bend, which will be our 45.
Okay.
So the same thing is we're going to bend this to where that is level with the ground.
Now, 45s are considered more offsets, whereas a 90 degree is more where you're going into a box more than likely.
More than like this, we've got another box, or we're going to continue this box 8 feet down to, maybe this was the PV is coming into the bottom of this box.
Okay.
And so that's, from ground level, we've got our LB 8 feet down the line. We've got a couple couplings, and then we're in here.
Okay.
So,
so is a 45 going to be more difficult to measure than the 90?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
At this point, and again, too, a lot of times I will eyeball, but if we are going to do the multiplying factor the way you're supposed to, 45 degree or multiplier for a 45 degree bend is going to be 0.4.
Mm-hmm.
So we multiply whatever our distance is by 1.4, and that's a distance between the two marks on your conduit. So maybe we can just go ahead and, I'll go ahead and bend to 45, and then we'll get into how we're going to mark for our multipliers for a 30 degree.
Sounds good. Do you need a level?
I don't think so. I'm going to try to do this where you guys can see the 45.
So when we're not using a level, we're basically looking for that line at 45 to
To be
be
parallel with
to
the
the
floor.
ground?
Yeah.
What if you're not on level ground?
I've brought pieces of 2x6s before because sometimes you're not going to be on level ground.
Right.
You might be at the site while it's under construction. So I've even gotten the back of my truck before and put down a 2x4 or a piece of plywood to bend on so we can have a good flat area.
Okay.
So, and again, too, we're going to look for this 45-degree mark to go parallel with that. And so, and again, I'm using the other foot, other direction, so you guys can see this. But
When you're
apply
bending
pressure,
when you're bending it, go ahead. It's kind of hard for you to see the line and bend at the same time, is it not?
it is.
So that's kind of tricky.
It's a good idea to kind of take a look at what you've got there. And most time you're not doing it on carpet, so it's not as nearly as slippery. Take a look. And that looks fairly, again, I'm gonna let it relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. Apply a little bit more.
So
Bend, and that looks pretty level to me.
but
on
you
the
can
45.
always take this and use the 45 angle to double check it. Does that work that way?
Needs to go a little more according to our level.
Now, because of the way the tool is made where it cradles the pipe, it doesn't allow it to get out crooked, cattywampus.
Yes, now if you do the secondary bend, that's where you have to worry about putting a dog leg in it. It's, I've heard us Texans call it.
Yeah, so what's a dog leg?
So dog leg is, that's our 45. And this level is really nice because it actually gives you a top view
Oh, okay.
of the level so you can actually see what's going on there. So let's say I'm going to do another bend like we did for the soffit. And I want to bend this back to 45 degrees. Obviously, I can't put this on the ground and bend it that way. So I actually have to put this in the bender. And then bend it back and get this to a 45 degree. So you could have it offset like this. And if you have that bend now, the bend is going to go off like this. So you want to keep your bend straight with the pipe as you're bending it back to the 45-degree mark.
Okay.
Bend it back.
So what happens if you mess up and you try to bend your bend back in the other direction? Are you messing with the integrity of your conduit at all?
There's a certain point of correction that you can do. Anything past that, yeah, you might mess with the integrity of the pipe itself. So
And how important is that?
it's pretty important, but it's also pretty easy to keep it straight as well.
Okay.
So
Very good.
and when I make my marks, I did this with, normally I'll use a pencil. So that way it can kind of come off really easy. So your customer doesn't see a whole bunch of marks, but I went ahead and used a marker here. And so I've got this at 30 degree. This is going to be a 4-inch offset to get into. And so I've got my multiplier. I'm going to start the bend here and my multiplier is there. And that is 8 inches in between the two. So we're going to do a 30-degree offset. I'm going to try to get this to where you guys can see this. We're going to get it on our mark.
So you got a star.
We have a little arrow point right here on this side, on the other side. You can kind of see right here, that is the start of our bend. And on this, we're lucky because 30-degree bends on this particular pipe bender gets this to where the pipe bender itself is straight up and down. So we can kind of watch that level. Not all pipe benders are like that for your 30, but most are.
Okay. I was thinking it would be that way for 90, but you're saying it's that way
For the 30, yeah.
Okay.
And so we'll go up, take a look at our 30 line here. Is going to be the 2 for the camera. Again, we're going to press down, pulling up at the same time. Let me check this. Looks like we need to go more. Give it a little more. Let it relax. Give it a little more. Let it relax. And it is almost perfectly in the bubble now. And so that is our first 30 degree. So now we're going to put now we need to bend that back. So obviously we can't put that on the ground and do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to put this conduit in on our mark. And this is where we were talking earlier, where if that's not straight, then we're going to have kind of a dog leg. It'd be a little crooked, so we're going to line that second mark there. And that's why I've marked it all the way around. So I can get that to where it's straight. And now what we're going to do.
You're looking at this line that's
I'm looking at
with
the line.
your line? Okay.
Looks for the camera, but.
And you got a star on this side, right? That's
your start there.
Okay.
It's not a star. It's going to be an arrow.
An arrow.
The star is a different.
I got you.
That's for a double, like a saddle bend, what we call it. But
saddle bend.
We don't have that much time to get into all that. But it's definitely something.
This is a basic conduit class.
So yes. So we're going to get this now. We're going to bend this down to where it matches the 30 degree bend. So you're going to put your foot here.
How do you know where you're stopping this time?
Well, I'm going to look at the multiplier on for me to get that level.
Because you know that line is the same on the other side.
That's right. So again, I'm going to take that, make sure it is straight with the pipe. Kind of get down, put your foot over here on that side so it doesn't slip out. And we're going to start slowly. I'm going to try to put as much pull down force here rather than here so we don't bend it, but it can be a little difficult. So here we go.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little less control on this side.
Yes.
But it helps to have all that leverage. So if you can make your first bend on the short side, it seems to make sense.
That is correct.
And that looks pretty good.
Needs a little bit more, I believe. But
yeah, this
look pretty good to you?
That looks good. The second bend looked a little less controlled, I guess.
Yes.
It's a little harder to do. Looked like
it's a little harder to do, especially while you're talking, kind of demonstrating. But the other thing that I've done too, and maybe on some of the B-roll that we have filmed, is I was able to take a 30 degree bend, it was actually a 45, and I went out on a staircase to where I hung the overhang over to where I could get the conduit flat and use by bending up rather than bending it down onto that. But that's our 30 degree offset. And so up and over and into the box. So
that looks really good. I like it.
So
what would you say are the most common mistakes you see people make when they're first starting to bend EMT?
They might do something like this. Since we've already done this, again, it really matters to make sure that this isn't there. they might do something like this. And that would put a bend right there unnecessarily
Instead of where you actually
instead of
want
actually
it.
where you needed it.
Mhm.
And so now let's just do that. And it's just a bad bend.
Yeah, it doesn't look quite as nice as some of the other ones.
And if I went a little further, it probably would have crimped it.
Mhm.
So yeah, just some practice. You
Yeah.
know, practice
Yeah.
makes almost perfect. Nothing's
Yeah.
ever perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say overbending, doing the dog leg where we're not keeping that secondary bend straight up and down with our pipe.
Yeah.
So
Now, I've read a lot about really, there's some really in-depth conduit bending, but really it can be as simple as this. And you even talked about eyeballing some of your stuff, but if you just stick to the basics, it doesn't seem like it has to be too hard. But one thing that you have mentioned before is that you have to consider that you are shortening your length when you're bending things. So tell us a little bit about that.
So when I first started with this, and it's going to be really obvious, I believe this was a 6-foot piece of pipe. Now that I put my bends in it, it's probably somewhere around 4.5 foot tall.
Yeah.
So it's what we call shrinkage. So if you've
Mhm.
got, let's say you're using a piece of string representing our conduit, and it's 8 foot long. I put in a 45 and another 45 back on it.
Yeah.
Now our length has decreased. It's what we call shrinkage.
Mm-hmm.
So now ideally, when I first started out, I would put a 90 in it and then an offset and maybe couple that. But as you get better and better with bending your conduit, you can actually take one piece of pipe. This has an offset as well as a 90.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can do a whole bunch of bends on that. And once you get better, it's actually cheaper to use EMT because you don't have to pay for pre-bent 90s and 45s
Right.
and more couplings. So you can
Yeah.
actually take one piece of 8-foot pipe or 10-foot pipe and have it, do compound various bends and offsets within one piece of pipe.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of money at that point.
Yeah. And ultimately, we've just really hit the basics. When you're doing code compliant conduit, you ultimately have to rely on your AHJ, you have to rely on your manuals. And so, what are some good code conscious habits that people should really think about and make habits for themselves?
Well, and again, too, especially for solar, since we were talking about solar,
Yeah.
our first entryway into the house
Mhm.
has to be in metallic raceway. So making our choice. It's not that you can't use PVC in between your inverter and your charge controller, your MID or whatnot. You can, but if you're going to standardize, you might as well standardize. And so, also another thing
It makes it look really nice.
Yes,
when
it's
you
really
have
nice and clean.
clean EMT, you can go out and you can look at the side of the wall and think, wow, that looks really nice.
I've had inspectors before walk up and just say, man, that looks clean. And that inspection was 5 minutes. It took us longer to sign the paperwork than the inspection itself, because they're like, oh, they're going to take the time to make this look really, really nice and it's functioning. Like I can only imagine everything else is going to be just as nice too.
Yeah.
So it can also save yourself a little bit of trouble with the inspector.
Oh, there you go.
So, and who doesn't want to clean? And I know, like, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to conduit. I'll go to 7-Eleven and admire the conduit work that's on the outside of the building, or not, or critique it, or learn from it.
Yeah.
But I like to have my inverters look really pretty and the conduit really nice.
Sure.
And again, too, you can paint this so it kind of blends into the house. I've had guys even like paint this red, put it up against a brick house, and then go in and put in white mortar lines. So
Really?
it really just camouflages in.
Yeah.
So like, it's just kind of an art.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can say if there's one thing that I can take from this is that it's really more than just about bending conduit. It's really about planning how you want to bend it and choosing the right materials before you go in and you actually do the job.
That's
so
right.
Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Well, adding on to our next episodes, we've talked a lot about construction and techniques and stuff. So we'll be able to take everything. We're going to build until we get to our larger systems that we're going to be going on. So I look forward to seeing you later down the line.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if there's any questions. that
Yeah,
might
well,
pop
before
up.
we close out, we did have one question just
Sure.
pop up from David Tolan one. For flexible conduit options, what about HDPE?
HDPE. What is that? High density poly. I'm not quite sure. HDPE. So if it's rated as conduit
Mhm.
and you buy an electrical supply house, I'm pretty sure you can use that.
Check with your HJ as always.
Yeah, I've had people tell me, an engineer was like, he used white plumbing pipe before. You said like, there's no difference between the two or whatever.
Mhm.
And the inspector begged to differ. And so he ended up doing that. So want to make sure that, that whatever the conduit is, as long as it's UL listed for that purpose as conduit, then absolutely.
Okay. Well, Kenny, a sure thank you for walking us through this one. And all of you, thank you for joining us today. If you would like help designing your solar and battery system, our design team is always willing to help you figure things out. So feel free to give us a call. And as always, be sure to subscribe and follow us on Facebook at Signature Solar US so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you next time right here on Amp Up.